Ever since this coronavirus has hit the world from China, it has been nothing but suspect in my eyes. I have not trusted a thing that I've heard from the doctors, from the news, from anyone. And so I have discovered the ultimate cure. And it's not a snake oil cure, it is an absolute immediate cure that is a non-invasive, non-chemical ridden, and non-toxic, purely natural, and it can be done in the snap of a finger. And I propose that Donald Trump goes on the news and immediately declares a war against medical fraud. And I believe that if he were to do this and to announce that he was going to strategically plan a team of investigators to go and try to weasel out all the amazing instances of fraud that are occurring, starting with false declarations of COVID-19 on death certificates for people who did not die of COVID-19. And I have a feeling that all of this has to do with this election. But check this out.
I will answer one question directly about a report that a resident who passed away, that her family didn't know that she had died of COVID until they saw the death certificate. And that situation is unfortunate and was simply a clerical error on the death certificate. And when it was recognized that this had happened, the facility reached out to the family of that resident and talked with them and explained the situation. And I think that the family was very appreciative of the nursing home for everything that they had done for their loved one during that event, during her time being cared for there. And it was just a small clerical error that resulted in the family being told that the patient died with COVID when that indeed was not the fact. So I do want to straighten out some social media maybe on that.
Now this appears to be happening all over the place. These comments from this one video alone seem to list several family members who this has happened to, and every time I turn on talk radio, which has happened in the past several weeks, I always hear callers that are talking about their family members that this has happened to, or people they know that this has happened to. And if you look, I just spent the last half hour searching on Google, searching on DuckDuckGo. I can't find any stories relating to this, not one article. It's always just different people suing nursing homes because their family member died of COVID, and things like Como, who actually sent a lot of people to their deaths by doing whatever and crowding the nursing homes and enforcing ventilators, which happen to have an 80% death rate for the people that get put on them. So take a look at some of these articles, and I want you guys to think about this because it's really something that's happening under the radar, and no one's even talking about it except the people that are experiencing it, because the news and different newspapers are all reporting these family members as dying of COVID, and the hospitals are cashing in. And just in Massachusetts alone, Norwood Hospital recently just closed because of flooding. The last couple of years, several other hospitals around Massachusetts have been closing due to bankruptcy issues. Another one is about to close in October that I've heard from inside sources, and it's just because they don't have any money. This COVID has bankrupted so many hospitals and so many medical facilities, and the only way they can get money is to fraudulently place COVID on the death certificate so that they get $13,000 plus $39,000 if the patient goes on a ventilator before the death certificate gets signed. And when the death certificate gets signed, I believe something happened. I believe some of the family members can even cash in, which is why there have been people selling fraudulent death certificates that say COVID so other people can cash in. This is an absolute cash cow for corrupt people all over the world. Meanwhile, people like us are suffering. Our businesses are dead, my gallery's closed, my teaching gigs are gone. All these different things that I worked hard to sustain are done because of this medical fraud. And the numbers inflating happens to have a very detrimental effect by putting all of our family members in constant fear, just the mind control it's happening on all of them who still trust the news that they receive from these supposedly once trustworthy sources, probably never. But people are believing this, and they're getting scared, and their lives are becoming miserable. People are committing suicide. People are losing their jobs. People are going bankrupt. People are getting in fights. People are getting divorced. People are doing so many different things that are negative, all as a result of this. And if the numbers were not accurate, and if there really is all this medical fraud and all these inflated numbers, all these false positives, all these things that are basically saying that this thing is a disaster, this thing is the pandemic from all those movies that you've always dreaded would one day come, all these plague movies that Hollywood infested us with, so that one day they could put out something like this and people would immediately go to all those images they've seen in Hollywood with zombies and people crowding things and rotting in the streets and all this stuff. They wanted that so bad, but they can't get it, and they're lying through their teeth to try and manipulate it to happen. And it's working in some weird ways. So I feel that if Trump were to say we are now going to start a undercover group of investigators that are going to be at all these hospitals, and they are going to punish any doctor that falsely represents a coronavirus death when there isn't one. If the patient dies of something else, like a motorcycle accident like you've seen in Florida, and then they list coronavirus as the thing, that doctor, whoever signed that death certificate, should be charged. That should be a felony to commit medical fraud. Absolutely. And then I have a feeling immediately all of these things would stop. All these doctors that are just following orders, that's what they're so good at. They just follow orders no matter how many people it kills, no matter what the negative effects they experience firsthand are with the patients that they give these doses to. No matter what, all the things they've done, they will immediately cower to this if they think that they're going to be arrested and they think they're going to lose their license. They do so many things in order to save their licenses that are completely against humanity. It's almost like the Nazis that said, like, oh, I was just following orders. The kind of the medical industry is becoming a new form of that, where they're just following the WHO, they're just following the CDC, and it's causing a lot of death. It's actually making murderers out of them, whether they realize it or not. And to me, the only really heroes out there are the ones that are telling the truth, and the ones that work in emergencies and save people and are real true doctors that care about health. These other ones are very corrupt, and like schools, they become more businesses than they have actual care for the community and the people they service. So, if you were to threaten these people, I have a feeling they would all cower and they would all stop, and I have a feeling the numbers of COVID deaths would drop immediately overnight. If they continue to do it because they know they can get away with it, they know they're going to cash in on it. They know their hospital's going to benefit. They know no one's going to say anything because they're all paralyzed with fear. And they've got all these lawsuits on the hush-hush for the people that do actually say something and do challenge their fraud. And it should be widespread. This guy is leading it all. Just a terrible disgrace for an Italian. And he is just absolutely needs to be charged for all of this. They should find out where the money is, find out all the connections he has to Moderna and Pfizer and whatever else, and they should be charged for these things. People should be investigated big time, because it is a health emergency, and the biggest health emergency is this fraudulent stuff. All these people, all these dark characters, like the Democrats, which are just putting us into eternal debt for things that bail out their friends. Like, meanwhile, where a lot of Americans are being humbled by the fact that the government's giving them some pandemic unemployment assistance for about $600 a week, and people are so generous and so thankful for that because it means so much to them. Meanwhile, these other corrupt companies and weird celebrities are getting paid in the millions for this out of our taxpayer money. All of this comes out of our taxpayer money. When a hospital fraudulently claims someone has COVID and collects $13,000, then they get a ventilator for another $30,000. That's money that the federal government is paying them that they do not deserve at all. And it absolutely has to stop, and they should be keeping tabs of all this. There should be FBI investigations to prevent this, because it has the best interest of everybody in mind. To prevent medical fraud saves everybody in the long run from a lot of stress, because we will have accurate numbers, we'll have an accurate way to deal with this situation, and we will get those doctors out that are just unbelievable before they give us the vaccine that they're already testing on people with amazingly negative side effects. That is their end game here. We cannot let it happen at all costs. Trump, please declare that medical fraud will no longer be tolerated and it will be punished immediately. Make these doctors think that you're already onto them, and the numbers will cease overnight. The cure for the coronavirus is truth. It is reality. And our body is our choice, what we do with it, no matter what. No matter what they say, everybody should look into the ingredients of anything that goes in their body, and especially that goes in the body of your young children. Our generation has been experimented on to an extremely detrimental degree, and the only way to end this for future generations is to get these evil people out of the medical industry and restore it to the purpose that it was always destined for, to promote healing both spiritually in the mind, body, and soul for every single person that it encounters. And the natural way is always the best, and end the chemical manipulation. Bless you all. Take your bodies back.